It's Tuesday, April 20th. And we're learning today, April 20th, about the Tanya. Tanya is deep Jewish wisdom. It's fundamental, the fundamental text of Chabad philosophy. Remember, the word Chabad means logic. It's a rational approach to faith. And the way that we have a rational approach to faith is primarily through the book of Tanya. Tanya, written by the first Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first Rebbe of Chabad, is the foundational text of Chabad and what keeps Chabadniks ticking, a fire under their feet and their souls on fire. So what we're learning today is we're starting actually chapter 44. It's a new chapter, but we're keeping up with this theme that we've been learning through the last 4 chapters of Tanya, which is nurturing our emotional relationship with God. In other words, making a relationship with God which is real. Imagine someone in your life with whom your entire relationship is all about merely going through the motions. And there was no emotional attachment whatsoever. It would be mechanical. It wouldn't be a human relationship. It would be like talking to a machine. And the question is, do we have that kind of relationship with God? That's the question. Do we have that kind of relationship with God or not? And what Tanya is doing for us now is nurturing that concept, to take it out of our minds and put it in our hearts, giving us the tools, opening our eyes to the reality of our identities, our place in the universe, our role in creation, for us to be able to nurture an emotional connection with God. Now, today, like yesterday, I do not see any chats. I see Winston on YouTube, but that's in like a separate screen, and it really is upsetting that I cannot see who else is with me here. It's almost like what we're learning is so important that the forces of impurity in this world are trying to separate us. You know, we are already separated, for heaven's sake, you know. This pandemic separated us so far that we can't even sit in the same room right now. But why can't we see each other? If anybody has any insight, any Facebook techies over here, I don't even know what I'm supposed to click on to be able to see the comments. No, not that. I'm just going to test it out a few things. Oh, there it is. Okay, I did something. Rob Berger, good morning from New Jersey. Harvey Barnett and Howard and Susan Weisberg, as well as Terry Zweig. Okay, fine. So something a little weird, but at least I can see most of what's going on Facebook. And on YouTube, I can. Normally, I'm able to see myself as well as you, but you know what? It's fine. I don't need to see myself. It's good. Winston, thank you for joining us on YouTube, and everybody else that's with us here on Facebook. All right, good. So we're learning today specifically about a new form of love in addition to the groundbreaking 2 loves that we learned about in the previous chapter. In the previous chapter, we learned about a love that was nurtured through our realization and meditation of this world, what we called Ahavas Olam, the love of this world, or through this world. Loving God through the realization of how great He is in His acts of creation. And there was a far greater love, a transcendent love, called Ahava Rabbah, or Ahava B'tainugim, which means the great love or the pleasurable love, which is a love that supersedes, that transcends any of God's actions. As we say in Hebrew, katana love. It's small on Him. It's like saying that the greatest thing that George Washington ever did was to eat pumpkin pie on his birthday. And it's like, seriously, I mean, who cares what he did on his birthday? He's so much greater than that particular action. And in the same vein, Ahava Rabbah, the great love, is the realization that God's acts of creation is nothing. It's like a little speck of dust compared to who He is in His essence, right? And that level, what we spoke about in chapter 43, was a love that you cannot reach on your own. You've got to be invited to receive it. once you've reached an impressive degree of ahavas olam, of attainable love, earthly love, worldly love. So these are the two ideas that we spoke about in chapter 43. But today we open up the door in chapter 44 to two more loves that actually serve as a shortcut method. One of them, at least, serves as a shortcut method to reaching the level of ahava rabbah, of the great love, without actually getting invited from above. It's a level of love that we can actually nurture. It's an earthly love as well as a transcendent love, which we can nurture through our own meditation. Very powerful stuff over here we're learning about today. Any questions or comments, please do share with me. I would always like to know where you are and what you're thinking. And if you're with me, so I appreciate your sharing your thoughts here as to where we might be holding and how you feel. Even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, I'd appreciate your thoughts and comments on that. Good morning, Marty. Welcome to Torah study here this morning. Okay, so at the outset, the Alter Rebbe points out to us something very, very interesting. He opens up the chapter by saying that we all connect to God in our own way. Yes, we all have the same Torah and mitzvahs, the same 613 commandments and the same Torah, but the degree of love, the emotional attachment that we nurture towards God is what God reciprocates back to us. So every single one of us has a unique relationship with God. And it all depends on how much das, remember the third letter of Chabad is das, Chachma Bina Das, idea, understanding, and meditation. It all depends on how much meditation we choose to employ. The way we've learned a basic principle in Tanya is that the feelings of our hearts are nurtured by the meditations of our minds. Human beings are created vertical with the mind above the heart, as opposed to animals where the mind and the heart are on the same plane. They're horizontal because animals are instinctive. Humans are meditative. Our emotions are guided by our meditations, and depending on how lazy or alacritive, is that a word? How much alacrity you choose to employ in whether you're going to meditate or not, how much das, how much realization you're going to experience, how much you're going to allow yourself to marinate the ideas of your mind until they become feelings in your heart, will depend on what kind of love you nurture towards God, which then God will reciprocate right back towards you. I'm curious to know if any of our participants here are able to connect emotionally with this idea. In other words, I don't think it's too difficult intellectually to understand this idea, but the question is emotionally. It would be so interesting to hear from someone that feels that maybe they've experienced a degree of one of these kinds of love. You know, if you're not comfortable sharing it in the group, then I would love to hear from you. Maybe send me an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com is my email address. And even if you're not listening live and you're listening later, maybe in a year or two from now, or 10, 20 years from now, send me an email. I would still love to hear from you about where you're holding in your own emotional development. Okay, in your emotional development with God. So the way the chapter opens up is like this. That there actually are two types of inborn love, of natural love, that we have naturally inherited within our own psyche, in addition to the two loves that we spoke about in chapter 43. So in addition to the Avas Olam, the love of the world, and in addition to the Ava Rabbah, the great love, the transcendent love that is transcending the world, there are actually two inborn loves, which we are all born with by virtue of being Jewish, by virtue of having a godly soul within us from the time of our bris. And both of these two inborn loves include the two loves of chapter 43. They actually, both of them, each of them includes Ahavas Olam, the love of the world, or love of God through the world, and Ava Rabbah, the transcendent love, the great love. Why is that? On the one hand, it is similar. It contains within it Ava Rabbah, the great love, because it comes from above. But on the other hand, it's Avas Olam. It's got elements of Avas Olam, of love of the earth, because it's inherited. It's something which comes to us naturally, like the world around us. But both of these loves do still need some contemplation to reveal them. Just like you need to fan the flames of a fire in order to turn it into a blazing flame. So too, you need to fan the flames of your natural love, of the two natural loves which we're about to discuss in chapter 44. And the way that you fan those flames is through contemplation. So Marty says that Facebook keeps crashing, and Rob too. Oy vey. I don't know what's going on. Winston is on YouTube. Yeah, Winston says YouTube is more stable. Okay, Ed Hockman is with us. Yeah, I see the numbers are plummeting on Facebook. I thought it was something I said. Sorry. Yeah, it just blew the video. The video just literally blew. Wow. I don't know, man. I think that what we're learning about here is something so incredibly profound and holy, something so vital to this universe that the forces of impurity are literally blocking us. Isn't that amazing? So, yep, we're being censored. Marty's with us. Terry's back with us. Rob and Marty and Winston. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I see the numbers on YouTube are picking up. Okay, good. Yeah, so Facebook friends, I don't know. Is anyone able to post on our page something? Can you go to our Facebook page if you don't mind, please? Just go to facebook.com/Jewish Gardens and just say that today's Tanya class crashed on Facebook. Please move to youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. If anybody could just post that would be great. So just ask them to move to youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. I'm going to carry on my class. I'm hoping somebody's going to do that. All right, good. So what are these two types of inborn love? Right? It's kind of interesting to know that we come with built-in. It's always nice to know that, you just bought something and it comes with a built-in warranty. It comes in with some built-in perks. You get some free, you go to a gym, you get a free training session. Maybe you bought something, you get a free, free seminar or something. It's nice to know. So we get this godly soul. We didn't even know that it comes with perks. How cool is that? Comes with natural love. What is that natural love? So the first one, which I'd like to discuss today, is what's called nafshi ivisicha. My soul pines for you, in the words of King David. It is the love of my own source. The way I understand this love is that it's a survival instinct. Everybody is selfish to some degree, whether they admit it or not, whether they exhibit it or not. Every single human being is selfish because they care more about themselves than they care about others, because we've got a survival instinct. In other words, I care about my life. I want to wake up alive. This is the reason that we don't just randomly drink poisonous drinks or walk off buildings or do things that are dangerous, because we have a natural instinct to survive, to be alive, because we love ourselves. But when you think about that idea, you say, one second, if I love myself, then I love the source of my life. I love where I come from. I love the source of what gives me life. And when you meditate about that idea, you realize that where I come from is Hashem. Hashem is the one that gives me the life of who I am. I'm only I because Hashem gives me life. And when you think about this idea, you begin to nurture the natural love which is within you. So every Jew desires to connect with his source at all times. The problem is only that we're just confused as to what that source is. We mortals are literally groping in the darkness. And let me just expound on this idea a little bit. And again, I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts. Elaine says spooky. Yep. Haven't heard anything since you said the shortcut method. It's a horror. Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to maybe fill in some gaps over here for the people that just switched over from Facebook to YouTube. Welcome to YouTube. Okay. Seems like Sergey Brin is more supportive of Tanya than Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, let's see what happens. So the idea I want to share with you, Terry, I'm going to try to fill it in a second. So we said that there is I'm just going to try to wrap up to fill in the gap over here a second. So what we said was that we have two loves we spoke about in chapter 43, the earthy love, Avas Olam, and the love which transcends the world, the Ava Rabbah, the great love. And that in chapter 44, we're introducing two new loves. But these two new loves are natural loves. We're going to talk about them in chapter 44. And these two natural loves, they need to be nurtured, and they need to be, to become full-blown. That happens through contemplation. So we're going to talk about them soon. And each of these two loves contains within it the two loves of chapter 43. contains elements of the world of empirical evidence together with transcendental elements, right? Just like Avas Olam and Avarabba is empirical and transcendental, so too these two loves, both of these natural loves, contain within them both elements. And therefore, since you can nurture these loves on your own, they're natural and you can nurture them through your own contemplation, therefore you're actually able to reach the benefit of the transcendental love of chapter 43. In chapter 44, you can do it on your own. It's a shortcut method. You don't have to sit there and wait your whole life twiddling your thumbs until you get invited to Avarabba, to the great love, the transcendental love. You can do this on your own. You can reach elements of that transcendental love. Okay? Now, when we're talking about the first kind of love, which is nafshi v'sicha, my soul pines for you. It is the soul recognizing its source. It's literally about it's the opposite of biting the hand that feeds you. It's about kissing the hand that feeds you. That's what it is. It's about kissing the hand that feeds you. When you realize that someone is the source of your life, you're grateful. You become grateful to your employer. You're grateful to your benefactor. When somebody does something nice for you, you're grateful to them, right? So how much more so if you realized one day, if you suddenly woke up and you realized, wow, there is something out there which is giving me the greatest gift of all, and that is life itself. Life itself, right? And when you realize what that is, you become grateful to that source. Now, because many of us, because we're humans, and ever since the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, we struggle with klipa, with the shallow perception of reality. We tend to judge a book by its cover. We literally ignore what it says in the book, and we focus on the cover of the book. We care about marketing and not about content. Whether we admit it or not, we do judge people by the color of their skin and not by the content of their character, what was so brilliant about the words of Martin Luther King, because he was exposing this painful truth. We eat foods that are unhealthy for us because they look good, right? So we tend to be shallow. We tend to look around us and say, you know why I'm alive? Because of my doctor. That's why I'm alive. And that's why we tend to love our doctors. That's why Americans are so emotional about Medicare and healthcare. It's like such a huge thing because we feel that the source of our lives is our healthcare. I mean, what's more important than my health, right? Whereas many of us mortals are simply blind to the elephant in the room, and that is the content of the book. So whilst we're able to see the doctors, while we're able to see the scientists developing the vaccine or the scientists developing the cure, which is terrific, but we ignore the reality that behind that lies God. And God is the one that's providing us with the ability to find the vaccine, to find the cure. He created the illness in the first place, right? And that's why he's creating the problem. He's creating the solution too. There's a fellow Jew in the community inspired me last week. He showed up in shul and he said, Rabbi, you've been telling me for years to keep Shabbos. And finally, I decided that's it. I'm starting to keep Shabbos. He's moving closer to the shul. He's keeping Shabbos. But he was like, not kvetching. He was complaining. He was like, look, it's going to be so hard for me to make money when my business is, but I'm not there and not in my business on Shabbos. And I said to him, 1 second, just think about it for a moment. Who is providing you with money? If it's the customers that provide you with money, then it is truly disturbing that you're not at your business on Shabbos. It's truly disturbing that you're ignoring the source of your livelihood on Shabbos, on the busiest day of the week. But if you go deeper and you realize that the source of your money is not the customers, the source of your money is Hashem and the master of the universe, then you say, 1 second, how could I possibly make more money by violating the will of God? God says, I want you to rest on the seventh day. I'll bless you 6 days a week if you rest on the seventh. And you say, no, thank you, but no, thank you. I'll work this out myself. Then God says, okay, you're on your own, right? You want to work it out yourself, work it out yourself. And I'm not taking responsibility for what's going to happen. But if you say to God, I'm making the pledge, I'm taking the plunge, I'm not working on Shabbos. because I trust in you. I see deeper. Then God says, okay, so if you not working on Shabbos, then I will find a way to send you your blessing, your success in the 6 days of the week, right? So this is the reason that we struggle with identifying the first natural love of Tanya 44, which is nafshi v'sicha, my soul pines for you, because we don't really know what is the source of our lives, right? I mean, you ask an average person in the street, who are you? And he says, I'm a doctor. And you're like, really? I'm a lawyer. I didn't ask you what you do. I ask you who you are. Who are you? She says, what do you mean? I'm a brain surgeon in Harvard. I don't know. I'm a executive in a Silicon Valley Fortune 500 company. And again, you say to them, no, you don't understand. I'm not asking you what do you do? How do you keep yourself busy 9 to 5? How you provide for your family? That was not the question. The question is, who are you? And most people don't even know how to answer that question. And I wonder how you'd answer that question. But at the end of the day, at the core of it all, they might say, well, I'm a father. Okay, that's one level. Or maybe I'm a Republican, or I'm anti-vax or pro-vax, right? I'm a pro-Israel, whatever. Okay, fine. But deep down, when you go all the way to the core, I'm a Jew. I'm a piece of God. When you finally identify your soul, which is a piece of God, now you say, okay, this is who I am. When you realize I am a piece of God stuffed into a physical body, it's now that you realize, 1 second, if I am a piece of God, if my soul, my life is a piece of God, then who should I be loving? My source is God. Let's take a look at this idea in the language of the Tanya. Okay, now I'm in this Tanya. We study from the Practical Tanya. I'm on page 5. We're starting chapter 44 on page 564. But today we're going to be starting on page 566. I read from Tanya only when I feel that, we can focus on an idea. But I always encourage you after we study to review what we've learned within the page of Tanya. So page 566, unlocking your soul's deep love for God. I'm right in the middle of the page in the boldface. If you don't have a copy, don't worry about it. You can get one at the show. Just call the office here, 561-624-2223. That's 561-624-2223. Or you can buy the Practical Tanya yourself. You can probably buy it online on Amazon or something. It's from Kol Menachem Publishers. But if you don't have the book, don't worry about it. Just listen in. But there is one different type of love, which contains all the mutually exclusive qualities of great love and worldly love. This type of love is a gift from God, like great love, because it's found equally in every soul of Israel as an inheritance from our patriarchs. This type of love is what the Zohar, the book of Kabbalah, refers to in its commentary on the verse, my soul, I have desired you at night. King David says in the book of Psalms, I'm sorry, it's Isaiah who says, Isaiah in chapter 26, he says, Nafshi ivisicha balayla. What this verse is supposed to be saying is, my soul desires you at night. My soul desires you at night. It's a reference to God. However, when you look at the words, it's not actually what it says. It says, my soul, you I desire at night. It's like I am desiring my soul. So the Zohar explains this verse, that you should love the Holy One, blessed be He, with the true love of the soul, which is a complete love, a love of the nefesh and ruach. You have to learn how to love your soul. That's what the Zohar tells us. That what Isaiah is telling us is not that I desire you, God. I desire you, God. It means, or my soul desires you. It's not what it means. When you read the actual grammar, it says, I desire my soul. That I learn that who am I? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not an American or a European. I'm not defined by my status as a family member or as a breadwinner. I'm defined by my soul. When I realize that my soul is my core, I learn to love my soul. That's the wisdom of Isaiah. That you should love the Holy One, blessed be He, with the true love of the soul, which is a complete love of the nefesh and the ruach. Just as the soul, the nefesh and the ruach cling to the body and the body loves them, so too must a person love the Blessed One, the Blessed Holy One, and cling to Him. You ought to love your body you ought to love God, as much as your body loves your soul. Meaning, as much as you love to be alive. Obviously, this is an inherent love because you don't have to learn how to love being alive. You naturally love being alive. So this is the first natural love within us. It is a love that is natural. It's inborn. We want to be alive, but it's a realization, just opening our eyes to the light around us, the realization that 1 second, I don't owe my existence to my doctor or to Pfizer or Moderna. I owe my existence to God only, to the Eibishter, to the one above. And the Tanya now suggests a simple meditation to awaken this type of love from its dormant state in your soul. And this is the meditation that we learn from the verse, my soul, I have desired you. I desire my soul, meaning to say, since you are God, my soul and my true life, therefore I have desired you. You're my essence. I desire my essence because I'm smart enough to realize, to open my eyes and become conscious and aware of who my source is. I kiss the hand that feeds me, but not everyone is smart enough to realize who the hand that feeds him is, and therefore he bites the hand that feeds him. Therefore I've desired you, meaning that I desire and crave for you like a person desires his own life and soul, and just like a person becomes aware of how much he loves his life only when he's weak and exhausted. You don't normally realize how much you love your life when things are going well. You only realize how much you love life when things are bad, when things are horrible. You don't appreciate what you have when you have it. You only appreciate what you have when you don't really have it. How many of us can say that we appreciate freedoms? No, when you come from a place like where you don't have freedoms, right, from a dictatorship or some other kind of country, when you come to America, now you start to appreciate freedom. You don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it, right? So says the Tanya, and just like a person becomes aware of how much he loves his life when he's weak and exhausted, and he desires and craves that his energy should return. And similarly, when he goes to bed, when your soul is exhausted and you're returning your soul to God, sleep is 1/60th of death, says the Talmud. Your soul is going back up to heaven. It's kind of scary. And you're hopeful that the soul will come back in the morning. And similarly, when he goes to bed, he desires and yearns that his soul will be returned to him when he wakes up to his sleep. So you're feeling a little vulnerable. In the same way, I desire to draw inside of me the blessed infinite light, the true source of life. This is the first level of love. It's a realization that my true source of life is in God. And that, therefore, I should love God, but I only appreciate that when I don't have it. Life is the greatest pleasure of all, but you don't feel the pleasure because it's a constant one. Because you always have it. Only when your life comes into question, for example, due to illness, or when you're weak or tired, do you realize how much it means to you? If you can call to mind how much you love life, if you can remind yourself how much you appreciate what you have, then with the same intensity, you can come to love God, the true source of life. So friends, I want to share with you a beautiful meditation on this idea. This meditation comes from the Rebbe. When Jonathan Sacks, the former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, who recently passed away at an untimely, he was too young when he passed away. But when he was asked on BBC Radio what his favorite song was, he said it was a song that the Rebbe, his mentor, sang. And the song comes from the book of Psalms, Tehillim, I believe it's chapter 62. And it goes like this. Tzama lecha nafshi, kama lecha basari. My soul yearns for you. My flesh pines for you. Be'eretz tziyah ve'oyeif bili mayim. In a land which is parched and tired without water. In other words, when am I thirsty? When do I appreciate you? When do I desire you? Just like when I'm in the desert and I appreciate water only when I'm in the desert, only when I don't have water, that's when I appreciate the water. So to God, I appreciate you when I don't have you. When I'm far from you, that's when I appreciate you. And David continues his request, Kain b'kodesh chazi sicha lireisuzcha chveidecha. I beg of you, God, that also when I'm inside of your presence, when I'm in the holy and I see you, When I see your strength and your honor, may I only be so fortunate to remember how much I yearn for you when I don't have you. So the song goes like this, the way the Rebbe sings it. Sama lecha nafshi, kama lecha vesori, beyeretz siya ve'yoyev belim. This is the first part of the meditation, where you're thinking about how much you appreciate water when you're in a desert, a land that's parched and dry and you're tired. And then to allow you to think about this, the nigun goes as follows. Ay, 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 ay. Yama ya 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 da da ya da da ya da da ya da. It gives you an opportunity to think about how much you appreciate water, only when you don't have it. I remember when I was in Cape Town visiting my sister and brother-in-law. Cape Town, the first modern city in the world that was scheduled to actually run out of water due to total mismanagement and government corruption, and refusing to use millions of states' funds for infrastructure. They just pocketed the money for themselves. In South Africa then, in Cape Town, you were only allowed, it's just a few years ago, you were only allowed to take a shower for maybe 60 seconds and take a bath in 2 inches of water and flush the toilets maybe once or twice a day. When you don't have water, you really appreciate it. I remember whenever I used to go on hikes with my mentor and my colleagues in high school, I used to always think about the water bottles that we took with ourselves, and thinking about, I would always remind myself that how much I appreciated the water from the freezing water streams up in the mountains in Africa. We used to drink water from the freshwater streams. They were freezing cold. And I remember how much I appreciated the water when I was out there and I was out of water and we were tired and thirsty. And when you finally come to a spring, you feel so grateful. And I remember that back home, when I was back in the city, I would always close my eyes drinking water and remind myself, picture myself in that setting. Picture myself at the top of the mountain in the Drakensberg mountain range in Africa, thinking to myself of how when you haven't had water for 5 hours and there's water somewhere coming up ahead. When you finally come up to the water, how grateful you are. I would close my eyes even in the city. Until today, I sometimes do that. I close my eyes and think of myself in that setting, and I appreciate the water that I'm drinking right now. So when you think about this idea, and then comes the crescendo, the elevated part of the nigun, which says that first part is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for God. I desire whatever I don't have. And when I'm far from God, when God is hidden from me, that's when I desire him. When I realize in our meditation today that God is the source of my life, but I can't see him, I yearn for him. My hope is only that when one day I'll be revealed, when I'll have him, I'll desire him just as much. And just to give a practical example, when husband and wife are separate from each other, we tend to love each other more. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? When you're on a business trip or something, you desire and miss your spouse much more. But can you imagine if you love your spouse when you were together as much as you loved each other when you were separate, right? Can you imagine? What it's like when you're having a long distance relationship, how challenging that is, right? Can you imagine that degree of intensity of passion? Imagine you had that now when you're together. It would be unbelievable, right? That's the second part of the nigun. Kein bako yidesh chazi secha lirois uzchach vaydecha. If only I could experience that same intensity of love now that I have you. Yama mama ma yama mama ma ya da da ya da da ya mama ya da. That's what the Tanya is telling us today. When we're weak and tired, that's when we appreciate our strength. We don't appreciate our strength when we have it. It's only when we don't have it. We only appreciate the love we have in our lives when we have it no more. This is what the Alter Rebbe is opening our eyes to today in the first of the two natural loves. And this is what I want to leave you with today, friends. I want to leave you with this meditation to give you something to think about for this week until next week's Tanya class, which is realizing and meditating upon Nafshi V'zicha. My soul, I yearn for you. I yearn for my soul. I've learned to realize, I've opened my eyes to be aware that I owe my life not to my doctor, not to my lawyer or my employer. I owe my life to my God, to my soul, and my soul is a piece of God, and therefore I need to learn, I need to nurture that natural love. The moment I realize that my soul is a piece of God, I say, God, I love you. I thank you. I'm grateful to you. Thank you, Hashem, for what you've given me, for what you continue to give me. This is a natural love. All it takes is some contemplation to realize that it's there. It's like literally opening away the brush and saying, look, what's in front of your eyes? There's just like a bush that's covering over. And if you part the bushes, you can see the magnificent love, the natural love, which is right there in front of our eyes. And with this, friends, I'm going to conclude it here today. I want to thank you for joining me here this morning. And I highly encourage you to review the Tanya that we've learned today. On page 5, it's really 564 through 568, what we learned in today's Tanya. And let me know if you have any questions or comments. Send me an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com. If anybody has any ideas as what we have to do to fix the comments box on Facebook or YouTube, really would appreciate that. Anyways, thank you very, very much, everybody. Shalom. And don't forget, today at 4:30, there's a men's club here, an outdoor men's club social meeting. It's cigars, scotch, and appetizers right here at the beautiful pavilion outdoors at the Chabad Palm Beach Gardens, 4:30 to 5:30. We hope that you'll join us, and we'll see you later. Shalom, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.